The moment I told Chef Benjamin that I was gay just to save my job at the exclusive five-star restaurant in Manhattan, my stomach twisted into knots I couldn't untangle. What I didn't expect was the way his steel blue eyes narrowed, not with disgust or dismissal, but with something that looked dangerously close to understanding. And that single glance sent my whole carefully built lie spiraling into territory I had never planned to enter. My name is James, 27, line cook from a small town outside Chicago who had scraped together every penny to move to New York after my mom's hospital bills started piling up. The restaurant La Lumiere was my lifeline. When the head chef posted an opening for an extra hand in the kitchen, I showed up early, resume in hand, desperate. Rumors had swirled among the staff that Benjamin only kept people who fit the family. His word for the tight-knit, mostly gay crew that had turned the place into a Michelin-starred powerhouse. Straight guys, they whispered, didn't last. One wrong joke, one slip, and you were out. With rent due and mom calling every week about the latest test results, I couldn't risk it. So when Benjamin asked me in the interview, casual as anything, if I had someone waiting at home, I blurted it out. Yeah, a boyfriend. The words hung there, heavy and fake, but the job offer came the next day. Now, 3 weeks in, I was standing in the gleaming stainless steel kitchen at midnight, wiping down stations after service, when Benjamin cornered me. He was 36, tall, with dark hair always dusted with flour and a presence that made everyone straighten up. James, he said, voice low and even, you've been dodging the after-shift drinks. Everyone else in the family shows up. You hiding something? His tone wasn't accusing, but it carried weight. I felt my face heat. I had been dodging because I didn't know the first thing about being part of that world. My boyfriend was a ghost I had invented on the spot. Just tired, chef, I mumbled, but he didn't buy it. Instead, he leaned against the counter, arms crossed, and studied me like I was a new recipe he was trying to perfect. Look, if you're new to all this, that's fine. But La Lumiere runs on trust. If you're part of the family, you lean on us. He clapped my shoulder once, firm, and walked away, leaving me staring after him with a mix of relief and a strange, unwelcome flutter in my chest. The next morning I called my best friend from back home, Marcus, the only person who knew the truth. Dude, this is getting complicated, I said, pacing my tiny studio apartment. Marcus laughed, but there was worry in it. James, you can't keep this up forever. What happens when they want to meet this mystery guy? I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that the paycheck was keeping mom's treatments going, and for now that was enough. Or so I told myself. By the end of the week, the lie had started to feel like a second skin. I laughed at the right jokes in the kitchen, nodded along when the pastry chef talked about his latest date, even wore a subtle rainbow pin on my apron like the others. Benjamin watched me more closely than before, but he didn't push. Instead, he started giving me extra tasks, teaching me his signature sauce reductions, letting me plate a few specials. You've got talent, he told me one slow afternoon while we prepped for dinner. Don't waste it hiding in the corner. His words landed soft, but they stuck. For the first time since I started, I wondered if pretending was costing me more than just the truth. That Friday, after a brutal service, the whole crew headed to a bar down the block, a low-key spot with dim lights and a jukebox that played everything from old soul to new indie. I couldn't skip it again. Benjamin bought the first round and slid onto the stool next to mine. So, tell me about him, he said, eyes steady on mine. My heart slammed against my ribs. I invented details on the fly. A graphic designer named Alex who worked downtown, liked hiking, hated olives. Benjamin listened, nodding, but something in his expression shifted, like he was filing away every word. When I finally escaped to the bathroom, I stared at my reflection and whispered, "What the hell are you doing, James?" The guy looking back didn't have an answer. Back at the table, the conversation turned to weekend plans. Someone suggested a group hike in the Catskills. Benjamin looked straight at me. "You in, James? Bring your guy if he's free." I forced a smile and said I'd check. Inside, panic bloomed. The lie was growing legs, and I had no idea how to stop it without losing everything I had fought for. The weekend came and went. I told them Alex was out of town. Benjamin didn't comment, but the next Monday he pulled me aside before service. "Listen," he said quietly. "If things are complicated at home, you can talk to me. No judgment. This kitchen is a safe place." His kindness hit harder than any interrogation. I nodded, throat tight, and for the first time the weight of the deception felt personal. Not just a job-saving tactic, but something that was quietly reshaping how I saw myself. By the end of the month, I had the routine down. Fake texts from Alex on my phone during breaks, casual mentions of weekend brunches that never happened. The crew accepted me. Benjamin even started calling me by name instead of new guy. Yet every time he smiled at me across the pass, something inside me shifted. A warmth I couldn't name and didn't dare examine. Mom called that Sunday, voice tired but hopeful. "The bills are covered this month, honey. You're doing good up there." I swallowed the guilt and told her everything was fine. It wasn't a total lie. The money was real. The rest? I was still figuring that out. The first crack appeared on a rainy Tuesday. One of the servers, a sharp-eyed guy named Tyler, cornered me in the walk-in cooler. "Heard you and Chef are getting close," he said with a smirk. "Careful, James. Benjamin doesn't do casual. If you're playing games, it won't end well." I laughed it off, but his words followed me home that night. Was I playing games? Or had the game started playing me? Sleep didn't come easy. I lay there replaying every conversation, every glance from Benjamin. The man was more than just my boss. He was steady, talented, and carried a quiet strength that made the kitchen feel like home. And here I was, building my place in it on a foundation of smoke. The next morning I woke up determined to keep the lie small, contained. But when I walked into the kitchen and Benjamin handed me a fresh apron with my name embroidered on it, a small welcome gesture the crew did for new family, the smile he gave me felt like a question I wasn't ready to answer. That was the day everything began to tilt. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of long shifts and careful performances. I had perfected the art of the half-truth. When the crew swapped stories about their weekends, I recycled details from old dates with girls back home, swapping pronouns and hoping no one noticed. Benjamin never pressed, but he was always there, offering advice on knife technique, sharing a quiet coffee during the lull between lunch and dinner. "You remind me of myself when I started," he told me one afternoon while we broke down a whole salmon. Hungry, scared to let anyone see it. I wanted to tell him the truth right then, but the words stuck. Mom had just texted about another round of treatments. The job was still my only anchor. My roommate back in the city, a quiet guy named Ethan who worked in finance, started noticing my late nights and distracted mood. "You look like you're carrying the world, man," he said over cheap takeout one night. I almost cracked, but I changed the subject. The less people knew, the safer the lie felt. Then came the staff party at Benjamin's brownstone in Brooklyn. It was tradition, end-of-month celebration for the family. I couldn't skip it without raising flags. The house was warm, filled with laughter and the smell of garlic and wine. Benjamin cooked for everyone. A simple but perfect pasta that made me forget I was supposed to be performing. Halfway through the night, he found me on the back patio staring at the city lights. "You okay?" he asked, handing me a glass. I nodded too quickly. He leaned on the railing beside me. "I know what it's like to pretend everything's fine when it's not. Took me years to stop hiding who I was from my own family." His voice was gentle, no pressure, and for a moment I almost told him. Instead, I asked about his own story. He opened up. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, coming out at 19, the fights, the tears, the eventual acceptance. Listening to him, I felt the weight of my own deception double. Here was a man who had fought for his truth, and I was borrowing it like a costume. The next day at work, the tension followed me. During service, a plate came back underseasoned. Benjamin didn't yell, he never did, but he pulled me aside. "Fix it," he said simply. "And James, whatever's eating at you, don't let it hit the food." I fixed it. But inside, the cracks were spreading. That evening, I called my parents in Illinois. Dad answered first, gruff as always. "How's the big city treating you?" Mom took the phone, voice brighter. "We got the money, sweetheart. The doctors say the new meds are helping." I told them about the kitchen, the crew, leaving out the part where I had invented a whole identity to stay there. Dad grunted approval. "Proud of you, son. Keep your head down and do the work." The words stung more than they should have. By mid-month, the lie had grown teeth. Tyler, the server, started dropping hints. "Saw you and Chef chatting again. You two got something going." I shut it down fast, but the rumor mill turned. Benjamin heard it too. Instead of awkwardness, he laughed it off in front of the crew. "James is family. That's all." The way he said it, protective and certain, made my chest tighten in a way that had nothing to do with fear of exposure. That night, I walked home through the rain, replaying his voice. For the first time, the thought crossed my mind. What if the lie wasn't just protecting my job? What if it was protecting me from seeing something I wasn't ready for? The following weekend, the crew planned a group outing to a rooftop bar in the West Village. Benjamin asked me directly, "Coming?" I said yes before I could stop myself. The night was warm, the city sparkling below us. Drinks flowed. Someone started a game of Never Have I Ever, and the questions got personal fast. When it landed on Never Have I Ever Hidden Who I Really Am, half the table drank. I drank too, heart pounding. Benjamin's eyes met mine across the circle. He didn't say anything, but the look he gave me lingered long after the laughter died down. Monday morning, I arrived early to prep. Benjamin was already there, sleeves rolled up, testing a new dish. "Taste this," he said, holding out a spoon. I did. It was perfect, bright, layered, everything I wanted to be but wasn't. "You're quiet today," he observed. I shrugged. He set the spoon down. "James, if the boyfriend thing is complicated, you don't have to bring him around. But don't shut the rest of us out. We're here." The kindness undid me a little more. I mumbled thanks and threw myself into work, but the conversation replayed on loop. By closing time, I was exhausted in ways that had nothing to do with the 12-hour shift. That week, Mom sent photos of her latest checkup, smiling, hopeful. I printed one and taped it inside my locker. Every time I opened it, the lie felt heavier. On Thursday, Benjamin invited me to stay late and help develop a new menu item. Just the two of us in the quiet kitchen, music low on the speaker. We worked side by side, chopping, tasting, laughing when the first attempt failed spectacularly. For those hours, the pretense slipped. I was just James, learning from someone who saw potential in me. When we finally locked up, he said, "You're good at this. Don't doubt it." His hand brushed my shoulder as he turned off the lights, and the contact lingered like a question I still wasn't ready to answer. The weekend brought the first real test. My sister texted, "Coming to the city for a conference next month. Let's meet up. Bring your boyfriend." I stared at the message until the screen went dark. The lie was no longer just at work. It was reaching into the life I had left behind. I spent Sunday pacing, trying to invent an excuse that would hold. By Monday, I was frayed. Benjamin noticed immediately. "Rough weekend?" he asked during the morning meeting. I nodded. He didn't push, but later he left a small container of leftover soup on my station with a note. "Fuel for whatever's on your mind." The gesture was simple, but it cracked something open. I ate it at home that night and wondered how long I could keep pretending when the man I was lying to kept showing me exactly what real care looked like. The pressure built slowly, steadily. Small moments stacked up. Shared glances during service, inside jokes about burned sauces, the way Benjamin always made sure I ate before the rush. I told myself it was just boss-employee kindness. But late at night, alone in my apartment, the truth whispered louder. The lie was no longer only about the job. It was about the way my pulse quickened every time Benjamin said my name. The conference weekend arrived faster than I expected. My sister, Emily, landed at JFK on Friday and demanded dinner. I met her at a small Italian place near the restaurant, heart hammering the entire subway ride. "So," she said after we ordered, eyes bright, "where's this boyfriend I've heard so much about?" I had rehearsed the story. Alex was out of town on a deadline. She bought it, but her next question cut deeper. "You seem different, James. Happier? Or just tired?" I laughed it off, but inside I was unraveling. The next day she wanted to see where I worked. I gave her a quick tour during the slow hour. Benjamin happened to be in the kitchen reviewing orders. I introduced them. "This is my boss, Chef Benjamin." He shook her hand, warm and professional. And for one terrifying second I thought he would say something about my boyfriend. He didn't. Instead he said, "James is killing it here. We're lucky to have him." Emily beamed. On the walk back to her hotel she hugged me. "He seems great. I'm glad you found your place." The guilt nearly choked me. Monday service was brutal. A critic was in the dining room, and the pressure showed. I messed up 2 orders in a row. Benjamin pulled me aside, not angry, just steady. "Breathe. You've got this." His hand on my arm grounded me. After service he stayed late again. We sat at the bar with leftover wine and talked, really talked. About my mom, the bills, the fear of not being enough. He listened without fixing, just nodded and refilled my glass. "You're enough, James. More than." The words settled somewhere deep. When I left that night, the city felt smaller, the lie larger. The next week brought the first misunderstanding. Tyler saw me leaving with Benjamin after a late night and started a rumor that we were dating. It spread quietly at first, then louder. One of the dishwashers asked me straight out. I denied it, but the damage was done. Benjamin heard it too. He called a quick meeting. "Personal lives stay personal. Focus on the plates." His eyes flicked to me for a split second, unreadable. After everyone left he asked me to stay. "Is there something you want to tell me?" I froze. The truth sat on my tongue, heavy and ready. Instead I shook my head. "Just rumors." He studied me a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. But if it ever becomes more than that, I'm here." The incident rattled me. That weekend I went for a long run in Central Park, trying to outpace the guilt. When I stopped to catch my breath near the Bethesda fountain, I realized I was thinking about Benjamin. Not as my boss, not as the man I was lying to, but as someone I wanted to be honest with. The realization scared me more than losing the job. Back at work, the tension simmered. Emily texted pictures from her visit, including one of her and me outside the restaurant. She had posted it online with the caption, "Proud of my brother and his NYC life." The likes rolled in. One comment from a cousin, "Heard he's got a boyfriend now. Good for him." I stared at the screen until it blurred. The lie had escaped the kitchen and was now public. I spent the evening deleting old social media posts, trying to retroactively rewrite my life. Benjamin noticed my distraction the next day. He didn't ask directly. Instead, he assigned me to work one-on-one with him on a new tasting menu. Hours alone in the test kitchen. We argued over herbs, laughed when a reduction broke, and somewhere between the 3rd and 4th attempt something shifted. He looked at me across the counter and said, "You're not like anyone else here, James." "That's a good thing." The compliment landed soft, but it carried weight. That night I almost texted him, not as employee to boss, but as James to Benjamin. I deleted the message before sending. The family pressure mounted when Mom called midweek. "Your sister showed me the picture. You look so grown up. When do we get to meet Alex?" I mumbled something about schedules. Dad got on the line. "As long as you're happy, son." Happy. The word felt foreign. I hung up and sat on the edge of my bed, head in my hands. The job was safe. The money was flowing. But the man I was becoming in the mirror was someone I barely recognized. Friday service ran long. At midnight Benjamin locked the door and turned to me. "Walk with me." We ended up on the Brooklyn Bridge, city lights reflecting on the water. He talked about his own coming out years, the fear, the freedom on the other side. I listened, throat tight. When he asked if I had ever felt trapped by expectations, I almost broke. Instead I said, sometimes. He didn't push. We stood in silence for a long time, shoulders almost touching. The space between us felt electric. The weekend brought another test. The crew planned a Pride event volunteer shift. Couldn't back out. I marched with them, wearing the rainbow pin, waving a flag, smiling for photos. Benjamin walked beside me the whole time. At one point the crowd surged and his hand brushed mine. Neither of us pulled away. That small contact stayed with me long after the parade ended. Monday I arrived early again. Benjamin was already there, setting up for a private event. "Help me with the flowers?" he asked. We worked side by side arranging centerpieces. Conversation flowed easy, movies, books, favorite quiet spots in the city. For the first time the lie felt like a wall I had built myself, and I wanted to tear it down. But the words wouldn't come. That afternoon Tyler cornered me again. "You and Chef looked cozy at the parade. Something you want to share?" His tone was teasing, but there was an edge. I snapped at him. Later I regretted it. The kitchen was supposed to be family, and I was fracturing it with secrets. Benjamin found me in the alley during my break. "Everything okay?" I nodded, but he saw through it. "You don't have to carry everything alone, James." His voice was so gentle it hurt. I wanted to tell him right there. Instead I thanked him and went back inside. The shift passed in a haze. Closing time came. Benjamin walked me to the subway like he sometimes did. At the entrance he stopped. "I'm proud of how far you've come in a short time. Whatever you're dealing with, I'm in your corner." He squeezed my shoulder once and left. I stood there long after the train came, the echo of his words mixing with the roar of the city. The lie was cracking, and beneath it something real was pushing through. Something that felt a lot like the beginning of truth. The betrayal came without warning. Tyler, still smarting from our argument, pulled Benjamin aside after service one night. I didn't hear the conversation, but I saw the change in Benjamin's face when he looked at me across the kitchen. The warmth was gone, replaced by quiet disappointment. He didn't say anything until everyone else had left. Then he locked the door and turned to me. "James, is there something you need to tell me?" His voice was calm, but the hurt underneath cut deep. I froze. Tyler had told him I was straight, that the boyfriend was fake, that I had used the family card to keep the job. The truth was out, and it wasn't from me. I tried to explain. The words tumbled out. Mom's illness, the bills, the rumor about the kitchen, the desperation. Benjamin listened without interrupting. When I finished, he rubbed his face with both hands. "You could have come to me. I would have helped. But you lied to all of us." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. He told me to take the next 2 days off. "I need to think." I left the restaurant feeling like I had lost more than a job. I had lost the one place that had started to feel like home. The next 48 hours were hell. I didn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, every kindness. Mom called, excited about a new treatment option. I couldn't tell her the money might stop. Instead I smiled through the phone and promised everything was fine. Marcus texted from home. "You okay? You sound wrecked." I couldn't even type a reply. The city felt too big, too loud. I walked for hours, ending up on the same bench in Central Park where the realization had first hit me. This time the tears came. Not for the job, but for the man I had hurt. On the third day I showed up at the restaurant before opening. Benjamin was alone, prepping. He didn't send me away. Instead he handed me an apron. "We need to talk after service." The day passed in tense silence. The crew sensed something was wrong, but no one asked. Tyler avoided my eyes. At closing, Benjamin locked the door and faced me. "Why didn't you trust me?" The question wasn't angry. It was sad. I told him everything again, slower this time. The fear of losing the only steady thing in my life. The way pretending had started to feel safer than the truth. He listened, then said, I don't fire people for being straight, James. I fire them for lying. But I also believe in second chances. He gave me one condition: full honesty from now on, no more pretending. I agreed, relief crashing over me like a wave. The following weeks were different. The crew knew. Some were angry, some shrugged it off. Benjamin kept me on, but the easy camaraderie was gone. He was professional, distant. I threw myself into the work, trying to earn back the trust. One night, after a particularly hard service, he stayed late again. "You were good tonight," he said quietly. It was the first compliment in weeks. I thanked him. He hesitated, then added, "I miss talking to you." The admission cracked the wall between us. We talked for an hour, not about the lie but about everything else. Music, books, the way the city never slept. When I left, the air felt lighter. My family was the next hurdle. Emily called, upset after Tyler had messaged her anonymously with the truth. "Why did you lie to us?" Her voice shook. I told her the same story. She cried, then said, "We love you no matter what. But the lying hurts." Dad got on the line later. "Son, you didn't have to pretend. We're your family." The acceptance was there, but so was the disappointment. I promised no more secrets. Mom was quiet on her call. "As long as you're safe and happy," she said finally. The words gave me permission to breathe. Benjamin and I started rebuilding slowly. He invited me to a staff-only dinner at his place. No pressure, just food and conversation. I went. The night was easy, laughter returning. On the way out, he walked me to the door. "I'm glad you're still here, James." The simple sentence meant more than any apology. Work improved. I earned my place again through sheer effort. The crew warmed up. Tyler even apologized one slow afternoon. "I was jealous," he admitted. "Benjamin's always looked at you different." The words stayed with me. Different how? One quiet Tuesday, Benjamin asked me to stay after closing. We sat at the bar with 2 glasses of wine. He told me he had been hurt by the lie, but he understood the fear. "I've been there," he said. "Not the same way, but close enough." Then he asked the question I had been dreading and hoping for. "Is there any part of you that wasn't pretending?" I stared at my glass for a long time. The answer came out soft but certain. "I think there is." He didn't push. He just nodded and changed the subject. But the air between us had shifted again, this time toward possibility. The next month brought small changes. Shared coffees before service, text messages about new recipes, a movie night with the crew where Benjamin sat next to me and our knees touched. I didn't pull away. Neither did he. The feelings I had been denying grew roots. They weren't part of the lie anymore. They were real. My family visited for a weekend. I introduced them to Benjamin properly as my boss and friend. They liked him. Dad shook his hand a little longer than necessary. "Take care of my boy," he said. Benjamin promised he would. That night, after they left, Benjamin walked me home. At my door he stopped. "I'm proud of you for telling them." I thanked him. Then, on impulse, I hugged him. He hugged back. The embrace lasted longer than it should have. When we pulled apart, his eyes held a question. I didn't have the answer yet, but I knew I wanted to find it. The lie had cost me trust, but it had also led me here, to a place where honesty felt possible. The journey wasn't over, but for the first time I wasn't walking it alone. The crisis hit during the busiest week of the year, Restaurant Week. Critics, influencers, and full reservations every night. The pressure was immense. I was running the hotline with Benjamin calling out orders. Everything was going perfectly until a fire broke out in the sauté station. I moved fast, smothering it, but in the chaos a pan slipped and burned my forearm. Benjamin was there instantly, pulling me away, wrapping the wound. "You're done for the night," he said, voice tight with worry. The crew covered. He drove me to urgent care himself. In the waiting room he didn't speak much, just sat beside me, shoulder against mine. When the doctor cleared me with bandages and pain meds, Benjamin drove me home. At my door he hesitated. I was scared for you tonight. The admission hung between us. I invited him in for coffee. We sat on my small couch, talking until the pain meds made me drowsy. He helped me to bed, made sure I had water, then left with a quiet, "Call me if you need anything." The next morning my arm throbbed, but I went in anyway. Benjamin tried to send me home. I refused. "I need to be here." He relented but kept me on light duty. The crew rallied around me. Tyler brought coffee. Others covered my station. Benjamin stayed close, checking on me every hour. The care felt different now, deeper. After service, he walked me home again. This time he came inside. We talked about the fire, about fear, about what mattered. Somewhere in the conversation I said it out loud for the first time. "I wasn't pretending about how I feel around you." Benjamin went still. Then he smiled, small and real. "I was hoping you'd say that. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to." The understanding was enough for that night. The following days brought new challenges. A food blogger wrote a piece about La Lumiere and mentioned the close-knit family in the kitchen. Someone online dug up old posts and connected the dots about my lie. Comments flooded in, some supportive, some cruel. My phone buzzed constantly. Mom called in tears after reading them. "Are you okay?" I reassured her, but the words stung. Benjamin saw the stress. He called a staff meeting. "We protect our own," he said simply. The crew nodded. That night he took me to a quiet rooftop bar away from the noise. We watched the city lights and talked until the sky lightened. "You don't have to face this alone," he told me. I believed him. My family flew in for support. We had dinner together, Mom, Dad, Emily, and Benjamin. No secrets. Just honest conversation. Dad pulled Benjamin aside at the end. "Thank you for looking out for him." Benjamin promised he would. When they left, the apartment felt emptier but lighter. Benjamin stayed. We sat on the couch, and for the first time I leaned against him. He wrapped an arm around me. No pressure, just presence. Work settled into a new normal. The burn healed. The online noise faded. Benjamin and I found a rhythm, professional at the restaurant, something more outside it. Walks after shifts, quiet dinners, shared playlists. The feelings grew steadily, no longer tied to any lie. They were mine. One night, after a perfect service, Benjamin asked me to stay. The kitchen was empty. He turned off the lights except for the soft glow over the pass. "I have something for you," he said. He handed me a small box. Inside was a chef's knife engraved with my name and the date I started. "You've earned your place. Not because of any label. Because of who you are." I hugged him tight. This time when we pulled apart, he kissed my forehead. The gesture was gentle, full of promise. The next weekend we took a day trip to the beach. We walked along the shore, shoes off, waves cold on our feet. Benjamin told me about his dreams for the restaurant, for his life. I told him about mine, helping Mom, maybe one day opening something small of my own. The conversation flowed easy. When the sun set, we sat on a blanket and watched the sky turn gold. His hand found mine. We stayed like that until the stars came out. Back in the city, the pace picked up again. A new investor wanted to expand. Benjamin asked me to help with the proposal. We worked late nights at his brownstone, papers spread across the table. One night, exhausted, I fell asleep on his couch. He covered me with a blanket and slept in the chair across from me. In the morning, he made breakfast. We ate in comfortable silence. The moment felt like the beginning of something solid. The final test came when the investor met the team. He asked pointed questions about diversity. Benjamin answered calmly, "We hire talent. Everything else follows." The investor nodded. Later he pulled me aside. "You've come a long way, James." I realized he was right. The lie had been the catalyst, but honesty had built the life I wanted. That night Benjamin and I cooked dinner together at his place. Simple pasta, good wine. After we ate, he looked at me across the table. I'm glad you walked into my kitchen. I smiled. Me too. We didn't need grand declarations. The understanding was there, steady, real, earned. The expansion approval came through in early spring. La Lumiere would open a second location. Benjamin asked me to be sous chef at the new spot. The offer meant more responsibility, more trust. I accepted. The crew celebrated with a rooftop party. This time I didn't have to pretend anything. I was there as myself, standing beside Benjamin while the city sparkled below us. He slipped his arm around my waist in front of everyone. No one batted an eye. The acceptance felt like coming home. My family visited for the opening party. Mom hugged Benjamin like an old friend. Dad clapped him on the back. Emily whispered in my ear, "He looks at you the way Dad looks at Mom." The words warmed me more than the champagne. We danced under string lights, the music soft. Benjamin held me close. "This is what real feels like," he murmured. I knew he was right. Work flourished. The new restaurant thrived. I balanced long hours with quiet moments. Sunday mornings in the park, late-night talks on the fire escape, weekend drives out of the city. The feelings that had started in confusion had grown into something steady and deep. One evening in Central Park, the same bench where I had once cried alone, Benjamin stopped and turned to me. "I love you, James." The words were simple, honest. I answered the same way. "I love you too." The kiss that followed was gentle, full of everything we had built. No more hiding, no more pretending, just us. Months passed. Mom's health stabilized. The bills were manageable. Dad started calling Benjamin son on the phone. The crew became true family. Tyler even stood up as best man when the time came. Because yes, one quiet afternoon in the same kitchen where it all started, Benjamin got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I said yes before he finished the question. The wedding was small, rooftop in Brooklyn, close friends and family, the crew cooking the reception dinner. Benjamin looked at me across the aisle and everything made sense. The lie that had begun as desperation had led me to the truth I had been searching for. Not just about who I loved, but about who I was. We honeymooned in a small cabin upstate. No phones, just us and the quiet. We talked about the future, kids someday, maybe a restaurant of our own, growing old together in this city that had tested us and ultimately given us everything. Back home life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Work, love, family, all honest. I still wore the rainbow pin, not because I had to, but because it meant something real now. Benjamin and I built a life side by side. Two men who had found each other through the unlikeliest path. Looking back, the pretending had been the spark. The honesty had been the fire. And the love that grew from it was the one thing no one could ever take away. True or false? Pretending to be someone else can sometimes be the only way to discover who you really are.